Hello, welcome to the setup steps for the DBCS for our DBAs workshop. This is for the CI version, and we're going to start by going to the labs and take a look at that. And this is the landing page of the Git repository that holds all the lab content. And we are going to be focusing on the self-guided version today. And once you select the self-guided version, you'll see there's two options, a manual one and Terraform one. It's the Terraform ones we're going to focus on today because it's simpler and faster and less error prone. So the first thing we'll do is start by installing Git. Now I already have done that on my Windows machine. We'll just go through the steps though. Very simple. You download the Git file. I'm not going to save that file. Again, I've installed it already. We're going to be using Git bash in the next couple of steps. And so you can see it's in my Windows machine right there. We're also going to clone all the content, including the installation files, the scripts for installing and setting up the environment. So once you've installed Git, go to a command window and copy and paste this git clone command. Now that command will probably change a little bit when we publish this as a final form, so that URL you see there might be a little bit different. I'm going to put everything for simplicity into D:, so it's not buried in a deep path. And we're going to have a Terraform directory as well as this Git repository directly under D. Now once you've cloned it, it takes only a few seconds to clone all the repositories. It actually includes all these labs as well as the scripts for installation. Let's take a look at that. We'll go to Computer, D drive, and there it is there, the Git repository. Go under Workshops, DBCA, look for the installation directory, and there it is, the TF file with all the scripts. We're going to extract those files. And we're going to change the path to D and make sure that you don't include the path in that little checkbox there. It might say TF. Uncheck that, just so that it doesn't create a TF under TF, like it creates two levels. So, all right, so it should have created TF directly under D:, and it has. And these are all the configuration files. Now we're going to need a few more as well. So you scroll down, and we're going to install Terraform. The beauty of Terraform, it's just a simple exe, one file, very simple installation. So you go to Terraform, we'll do that right now. I go to the Terraform site, go to Windows 64, that's what I'm using. It'll work on Apple as well, of course. Save the files, save it to TF. We'll put it in the TF directory, have everything in one place. Very, very simple. And the next thing we're going to do is go to the provider. That's the Oracle Terraform provider for OCI, Oracle Compute Infrastructure. Again, super simple. It's just a zip file with an exe in it. Let's go there and download the appropriate version. Windows AMD 64 is the one we need for my particular platform. Save the file, save it to D:/TF. And let's go to that directory. And we just notice you'll have a couple of zip files. We just need to unzip the executables directly. So we'll just use 7-zip to do that, or unzip, either one. There it is there. Extract the files. I don't want to put it in the subdirectory under TF, so let's just change that to D:/TF. And extract. And the other one we've got to do is the provider. And let's go to the provider. Well, we'll first do a little cleanup there, delete our zip file. We don't need that anymore. Extract now the Terraform provider. We'll extract it again directly into TF. I don't want a subdirectory under TF. We're not bought there as I'm deselecting that show extracted files. Go back in, do a little cleanup on the directories. Again, we don't need that anymore. Well, actually, it's put it in the subdirectory for us, so let's just take that directly out and put it under TF again. That's so I don't have to change my path and I can see everything in one place. We'll delete the working directories there that were used to extract the files, just to keep things nice and clean. That's what it should look like after you've we just need a few other things that are going to go into the installation that'll get parked on the image. But first we need to generate SSH and API key pair, and we're going to use git bash to do that. So go up to your start menu, go into git bash, and could use puttygen as well, but puttygen doesn't generate PEM format keys. Git bash actually does both SSH keys and PEM API keys. So it's become my new favorite tool for key generation. It uses the Linux commands, which I prefer to a GUI. So just simply enter first of all, change the directory. So everything we do is in d:/keys. There's a keys subdirectory under TF. Change the directory so the files get automatically generated in that location. And let's do SSH keygen. This is for the SSH keys to begin with. And we're not going to put any passcode in there, but I'm putting the full path with the file name. Okay, just put the full path with the file name just to be sure it goes in the right place. And it's going to actually generate the private and the public keys in one step. I'm just going to change the names of the key because it generates a public key, public key.pub, and a public key. Well, actually, the public key is a private key, in fact. So right-click, change that to private key, just to be really consistent here. Private key, and then you got public key.pub. And so now we're going to generate the PEM keys, and we'll actually be able to, since we got the path in here, you may have to change that d:/TF path if that's not where your staging directory is. You can change it accordingly, but I put it in D, so just be aware you might have to change that line. In my case, I'm just going to cut and paste that directly. And we'll just change the permissions on that. That's the private key to begin with, by the way. And then we take the private key and generate a public key from that. First, change the permissions on the private key. And lastly, the generation of the public key, PEM key. We'll be using those later. It's also used as part of the installation script, so it is required. Okay, moving on. Just to take a very quick look at what should be in your directory is these 4 files, 2 API keys and 2 SSH keys, public and private, 4 keys in total. Okay, we're going to download a few things. Download the Oracle backup module. It's just a zip file, the Adobe Yum repository, and the public Yum OS6 repository. And we're going to put that into, we're going to put that into a script/WS. WS is short for workshop. There's 2 images, a workshop image and an alpha 01A image, and we're putting these into the workshop image. It's simulated as an on-premise image. So go to the website. You'll need your OTN account, and I'm using mine, and we're going to download the OPC Installer.zip. We'll be using that later in the labs. I think it's lab 300 where we use that. So yep, go to d:/data and down to the TF directory and scripts, WS for workshop, and just save it right there. All right, so that's the first download. We've got 2 more to go. Next one is the Adobe repository. It's for Flash. Flash is required for the EM website. If not for EM, we wouldn't actually need Flash. So we'll go to the that URL there. I just got to be careful not to take the defaults because it'll say, oh, you're a Windows machine. You want this. Well, no, I'm using this for a Linux machine later. So just be aware it's going to sense it's Windows, and yet we don't really want Windows. We're going to put this on the workshop image, which is a Linux image, and that's where we need to install Flash. So select an operating system. It's going to be Linux 64-bit, and the version can be the latest Yum version. We'll use Yum. There it is there in the screenshot. That happens to be version 28. They're pumping out new versions all the time. You can just take the latest. I think the file name's the same. Hit download and park that again in the TFWS site location. It's already set there now that we've downloaded a file there, TF scripts WS. And then the last file is the public Yum repository, and it's actually directly a file. You can go straight there to the file, and we'll do a save as. So copy that, and right now just go, well, we don't have the menus, so I'll just right click on the bar there and say menu bar. So we can go file, save as, and there it is there, correct names right there. We got to change the location. Remember, we're going to D:/, yeah, that's it, down, D:/TF scripts WS. TF scripts WS. And you can leave the name as is, that's correct. And we're done with those downloads. And we're getting pretty close to being done here. And by the way, I never actually stopped this, so you can actually whistle through this pretty darn quick. Now we're going to log in now. This is probably the longest thing, is just picking up all the keys that need to be provided as part of the input. So that's stored in an envvars.bat file. We'll just go and take a quick look at that. We'll go to cloud.oracle.com first. We're going to log in. Assume you have this could work with a trial account, or maybe you've got a customer account or some sort of a demo account. Anyway, you need an account. We assume you already have that. Separate instructions for those. My account is 4414433. And we're going to just navigate around. Now you get more experience doing this in the workshops, just so you know. I'm not going to explain too much right now. We're just going to get this thing whistling and going, and then later we'll go back in here. You'll be in and out of the cloud console for a couple hours. So just be aware that actually, because I've logged in before, the screens, you're going to be prompted for a few extra screens. We have the screenshots there, and you're going to log in with cloud.admin. I actually wasn't prompted again because I've been in and out of this account several times. You'll see it in the screenshots, so don't be confused by the fact that the recording doesn't have it here. So yeah, and you can see I'm in as cloud.admin. And you got to pick database OCI, not database. That's the older classic services. We're on the newer generation data centers right now. So let's just have a quick look at the environment.vars file and take a look at that. Back up a step, go into it's in the main directory there, and it's a bat file. It sets environment variables, and there it is there. So basically, most of these, not all of them, almost all of them, you have to change because they just have the ones that I used, and that account's already gone. So yeah, you're going to have to you'll get your own account, and you'll have to replace all the IDs. I'm just pointing out here that when you first log in, you're going to have to actually customize the dashboard, and these services don't actually show unless they have something in them. And since they don't, you have to say, I want to see that. It doesn't by default show you all the services. So this is a little bit of retro here, just going back to what you would have seen had you logged in. It's again in the screenshots. You should have no trouble following that. So now let's start picking up the IDs, and the first one we're going to pick up is the tenant ID. They're long cryptic ones. Nice they've given you a little copy key there. See, there's the copy link on all these. There's that thing there, and they also say OCID tenancy OC1. That's nice. Then you can just look at that key and know it's a tenant key versus a user key versus versus a compartment key. So yeah, just replace that in there. I've got a default one in there, but you can replace it. The next one we're going to do is the users, and the users, yeah, there it is there. It's the API user, by the way. It's API user. Don't use the other one, GSC. So there's the user OCID, and there's a fingerprint and a private key path. The private key path you actually don't have to change. You already put the key in there. That's fine. That's all. And users, API user, and you'll see an upload key. It's a public key. Upload public key there. I've already got one. I think what I'll do is I'm going to delete. Let me just have a quick look here. That's that one right there. I'm showing you what OCI API key public PEM. Don't get, it's not an SSH key. So yeah, we do need to actually open that up and view it because they don't allow you to upload it, which is kind of annoying. So yeah, select it all, copy it. It's the one you generated just a few minutes ago. Go back into the UI, and actually I think what I'm going to do here is, I think what I'll do is realizing I already have one that probably is from an old test. I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to delete existing keys. You can always delete them and add them again later. So, because we'll need that fingerprint. The fingerprint actually is, I can see now that it's not correct in there. The fingerprint, there it is there, 76E is not the same as 05A, so, or 50A. So let's delete this key. Again, I've run through this many times, so I'm going to just fix that. If you're working with the cloud, you'll realize these things actually take very little time. It's kind of nice. You don't have to, not that time consuming to fix the keys. TextPad, copy that new one that we just generated a minute ago, and go back into the UI, paste it, add, and there it is. And then we have to update the fingerprint in the config file, the Terraform config file. Copy that, go back to the fingerprint, Careful, keep the double quotes, paste, save. And I think the only thing left is compartment. In compartment, I pick up in identity, and then directly under identity, you'll see compartments. It's important to pick the correct compartment. I'm using demo compartment, don't pick root. I don't pick manage compartment for paths. Customers might have a slightly different one, but in demos, we use the demo one. And simply copy that and paste it into the compartment OCID down in the environment variables file. And that should be it for the last of the identifiers. Terraform is the last step, and it will take about 90 minutes to do that. Terraform is great for setting this up in an automated fashion. You just literally need to run 3 commands, actually technically only 2. You need to run a Terraform init, which actually creates a .terraform file that stores a configuration, and then when you start running a plan and apply, it stores state information about like what's running, what isn't, what's there, what isn't, and it looks at those states to determine what it needs to do to instantiate the configuration as you've defined it. So I've done a plan. You should just see, yeah. Oh, and I also realized I have to run env.bat. You really need to, I keep forgetting to do that. env.bat sets the environment variables. If you don't do that, you're going to get errors all over the place. So all those OCIDs, everything, you definitely need to set that. And the one thing I actually missed in this whole setup is adding a password for the adding a password for VNC viewer. I've got it in there at a certain value. I'll highlight that in the documentation. I just want to make sure you guys look at that. You have to change it. You need to change it. You'll never be able to get into it, into VNC viewer. So that's just something I missed in this recording. It's the last. It's the last field in that env vars.bat file. I put in the cloud password. I put in a cloud password. I would suggest using that. They're fairly cryptic. You don't have to though. Now here you have to confirm. You have to hit yes. It's saying this is what I'm going to do. Add 12 objects. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. That's yeah. So. And then the last thing is just taking a quick look at the creation. It's going to crank for a while. It's going to create the network VCN, and then it's going to start creating the image itself. And you'll see that kind of chugging along there. So anyway, that concludes. We'll move on directly to Lab 100 once this is finished.